So I think we can start with the CI meeting. So if you are not, or you have not written your name in the attendees, please do it. And the first topic to cover is that we have code coverage reports only for the end-to-end test. You can see that if you create an end-to-end test with Cypress. This is an example of how the code cov report is displayed. You can see that most of the squares are red. So it indicates that we don't have tests in that branch or in those lines. And those in green are the tests. Currently, we have almost 30% of the end-to-end tests, but we have 0% of tests in the backend. So one objective or one goal of this meeting is to increase this coverage and to add more unit tests in the project of Meshery, because we don't have any tests in the Golang code that we can add. So yeah, our first focus on this group is to increase this coverage. Any questions about this topic? If not, we can continue with the new button to trigger workflows manually. We can now run all the jobs from actions in order to remove flag test. So if one test is not running well, we can rerun all the jobs with this button. In order to access to that button, you have to click on actions, select one job that is not currently working, and you can rerun all the.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, Rodolfo. I was trying to ask something, but my microphone was failing. My question for the previous point is which library are we using for testing, for unit testing?
We're using Cypress.
Cypress. We
Right.
can do unit tests with Cypress.
We can do, but we can do the unit test with Istanbul also.
Istanbul. Okay. It knows, right? Istanbul.
I think
Okay.
Istanbul is now installed in the or included in the Measure project,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, you can use Cypress or Istanbul to create unit testing. Or if you are creating unit testing for Go, we can use Go as the language to create those tests.
The default library from Go, right?
Right.
Okay. And this login that you are showing, this report is making the coverage for Go and for JavaScript, right?
Right now, no. This is
Okay.
only for JavaScript. Uh,
Okay.
we when we can create Golang test, we can add that feature to this code report in order to measure that unit testing in Go also.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Awesome.
Now, thank you to you. So I will add that we should add coverage from for unit test for Go unit test in order to be included in the report. Thanks,
Okay.
Jesus.
Cool.
So I was explaining that we can run all the jobs again in GitHub Actions. So you can only click in this button, rerun all jobs, in order to rerun if something fails, or if there is a flaky test. A flaky test is that one test that sometimes fail and sometimes pass. So if there is a flaky test, you can rerun all the jobs again. Any questions about this new action or trigger that any of you have? So if not, we can continue with the next topic. This topic is about the new charge release pipeline. That issue or that change is being working by Izuko, and is to we have GitHub discussions about here in GitHub discussions. So if you want to collaborate or to know more about what is going on this topic, you can go for that in GitHub discussions. And also we have an issue that is assigned to Izuku and Ragdax that incorporate a pipeline to publish the Meshery Helm. So I think Izuku is not here, but he is commenting that we can use this GitHub action in order to publish the Helm the Helm chart of Meshery in the CI. So in order that this can be triggered, we need to push to master. When we push to master, the new chart will be published in the artifact hub. So this is a good change because it will be all automated. And yeah, when we can have a PR from Izuku, I will put it in the document. The other thing is this topic, how to troubleshoot failed Cypress end-to-end test. This is something that Lee wrote in this document because sometimes the tests fail and we don't know why, what is the error. So I recommend that, for example, this error, they are failing some end-to-end tests related to ping and submit console, and it says something like cross origin policy. But when I download master and run the test locally, it got well. So I think this is a flaky test that we need to fix. Like sometimes it fails and sometimes pass. So the first step to debug the error is to see the logs in the GitHub action. And if you see something like this, maybe it's a flaky test and you have to test that locally. So I want to share with you how to run the test locally if someone is not familiar with that. So I will share my terminal. In this case, I'm running the front end with make run ydev, the backend with make run local here below. Then I run Meshery console locally also with the command make run. And then I will run the Cypress UI in order to run the test. So this sometimes takes a couple of minutes or less, but we can open a browser to see that. So we are waiting to run this.
So, Rodolfo, to repeat that, if you want to run before you submit a PR, potentially, like if you want to run end-to-end tests to confirm that the checks would pass, is this in part what you're showing here?
Yeah, if the tests don't pass or in your pull request, the first step is to debug the logs in GitHub Actions. And if you don't know the error, then the second step should be run the test in your local. But as you comment, we can run first the test locally before submitting the pull request in order to ensure that we are submitting no errors.
Gotcha. Okay.
I,
So
Rodolfo, can you
yeah,
please put the commands you run in the tabs. I put in the document make run
Yeah,
make run edep. Okay, make.
I will put it in the document also. Thanks, Jesus.
And the second for Cypress, which is the
Is npm run cj colon open.
I don't know. I can okay. npm runs. Okay.
Yeah, in the right. And for running Meshery console adapter, we
This one.
download the Meshery console project and then execute make run.
Thank you.
Then let me share all my or the Cypress UI. I will share all the desktop in order to see everything. So if you see here in the left side, you can see the Cypress UI. And if you want to run the user spec, for example, in the end-to-end or the settings that is failing, you can push that. For example, here we are running in the right side the test for user preferences. And if you can see, there is all the process like clicking the settings button and activating and deactivating all the settings in Meshery UI. Sorry, I didn't see that. I didn't activate my camera. But yeah, we can see that we can run all the tests locally first in order to see if something is wrong. And if we can trigger the settings specs in the left side, we only click that, and the Meshery will run all those tests.
Well, now, Rodolfo, I feel kind of like an ignoramus. I probably shouldn't be chatting while you're presenting, and that's in order to get this test interface, this Cypress, or in order to get the underscore pound slash tests, or the Cypress interface, that becomes available as you run npm CY open,
Right.
or what? Okay.
For example, if you run npic cj open, the command that I executed here, it opens the Cypress UI or the Cypress dashboard. And from here, you can run each test manually.
Nice. Gotcha.
For example, here it fails. And then you can see all the error that is missing. For example, here is the error that clicking in the ship adapter location. So something is wrong here. Maybe let me see. For example, here is the error, cannot read property operator install of undefined. We can see the response and the request here. Yeah, this is I think I need more time to debug this error, but this is a way to see what's happening in your local and to try to fix that.
Nice.
I don't know if it is only me, but do you have two monitors connected to your computer? Because it is looking like you have two windows, and the window that is showing the error is not seeing clear. It's like very.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Let me stop the share and share only the browser in order to see the problem better.
Thank you.
that was not. Do you see the error better?
Yeah, it's much better.
Great. So the error is at clicking the adapter collection, the adapter location button. That is this one, this one. So we can debug this error locally in order to identify the true error before sending a pull request.
Okay, and these errors are going to block the mesh request.
If we can, yeah, sometimes it blocks the pull request, but we should fix the problem always before merging a pull request. Because if we allow an error in the pull request, something or someone has to fix that in another pull request. So yeah,
Well,
it's very important. Sorry.
but what about the books previously you mentioned flaky errors or something like that?
Oh yeah, if there is a flaky test, you can write a comment in the pull request that this problem is something else, or it can be a flaky test, and we can proceed with this pull request. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So, any other questions about how to debug Cypress errors?
Refresh my memory, Rodolfo. You produced a well, a little bit of documentation on this already. You produced a blog post on sort of introducing this and some best practices, and then you're having this session to help people understand, like, hey, when they do submit a PR and a check fails, here's, you know, you're empowered to basically rerun those same checks locally. Here's how you spin up Cypress UI locally and work through the sorry, what I was, some of this is written down, and but I wonder if we, I wonder if we have all of this written, or not that all of it needs to be written down. Rather, what I mean is, hey, where would we most commonly point people to for troubleshooting on this? I wonder if we wouldn't, geez, thinking about this now, I wonder if one of the bots that we have shouldn't, like, point to the doc that, or that has this recording and whatever it is, like,
Yeah, it's
sometimes
a good idea to have a link to this or to the blog post if the tests are failing, so that everyone can go troubleshooting this in order to create the pull request. I will add into the document also. So add a link to a bot, for example, to be included in a bot to troubleshooting Cypress errors. Also, if you have a question of if you are not sure about what is the error, you can arrow at me and mention me in the pull request in order to help you and detect the error. So feel free to reach out. So I will share again the document. And the next topic is that we have fixed the Netlify builds in order to only be executed when we modify docs. For example, here in this pull request, I only added a configuration file for Netlify, and because it is not related to the docs, it will not be trigger the Netlify builds. For example, here in the pull request says that this branch has not been deployed because the pull request is not related to the docs. So these jobs was not processed in or were not triggered. So this is very useful in order to save minutes in Netlify builds and only run the Netlify builds if we modify or update the docs. Also, Lee, I have one question for you. I requested to activate the page build docs, but I think we can remove that,
Okay, got it.
please.
Sure.
And if the DCO bot is there, we can mark as required.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I put that here in the document also. We
Oh,
should
okay.
keep DCO and remove page build, please.
Got it. Very good.
Any questions about this topic?
Well, I don't know I don't know that this is the next. Oh, but what you had just said about intelligently, kicking off certain steps, certain jobs in the overall workflow versus others. I think that was like one of the last comments. Maybe you talked about this earlier, but it was one of the last comments that Asuko had mentioned on building the Helm charts. And I don't think that he realizes that you have such capability, that you have a conditional logic in workflows to be able to only execute the Helm chart action if there's a change to the /install folder, or some logic like that.
Yeah, you are talking about this release workflow, right, of Meshery?
Right. I think it
Yeah, the change in
well,
Netlify builds don't affect
right.
this
No.
thing because yeah. Oh, sorry,
Oh
maybe
yeah,
I
no.
misunderstood.
If you go to the very bottom of this, I thought recently, okay, it must be in a different. I'll point out his other comment anyway. You might be able to provide him. Like one, I think that it's going to take you to go do the chart releaser, and as you do, you can educate him that that action, the chart releaser action, or the chart itself, will only be built as and when there's a change to a file under the /install directory. That was his concern, was like, hey, we're going to be wasting a bunch of, like, we shouldn't be building the chart all the time if the chart didn't change. That's not what he says here. It's a different comment somewhere else, like I think it's in a GitHub discussion probably.
Yeah, if you have the link,
Yeah.
maybe we can add that into the document.
Okay, yeah. I'll grab it. If you go, yeah, there I go.
Is this one?
I think so. I think it's at the, no. All right.
Oh.
I remember reading an email this morning. If you go to the fourth discussion, no. Okay, I'll go check my email. But yeah, not a super big deal. I was just kind of pointing out that, like, exactly what you'd said about intelligently kicking off build, or conditional logic, is relevant to the that conversation as well.
Yeah, when Isuko create the pull request related to the share releaser, maybe in that pull request we can continue the conversation to
Nice. Yeah. I don't
how
think he's,
to improve that.
yeah, very good. I don't know that he's going to do it. I think he based on his lack of understanding, like, but yeah, well, what I'm
Yeah,
saying is we might have to show him the way.
yeah. I will send him a message in order to be updated, and if he needs help, I will ask him.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now I know where it was. It's in that comment right there in the doc. It's the last comment that he put into. There we
This
go.
one.
Yeah. It's a little
I
bit.
mean,
No, go ahead.
yeah. The CI should be triggered only if the source code of the Helm chart change. So yeah, I think he understood the point that triggered the CI or publish the Helm chart only if the source code change. But besides of that, I think I will ask about that issue and to be updated about that.
Nice.
Any other comments about this? If not, we can proceed with the last topic in the agenda. That is the test strategy doc and the test plan doc sheet. I think Julie just created this document.
Yeah. The thought here was that we've been taking steps forward on the end-to-end tests and on code coverage, and it's pretty neat. You know, you're able to see either at a PR level or at a across the repo, sort of. So where are we at? How little coverage do we have, or how much coverage do we have, and which is great. And then I thought, well, like, hey, have we written down the approach and the fact that we're anyway, do we have a central place where we're saying, hey, we for there's about 40 something repos here. There's adapter. There's things that are written in Go, things are written in other things. How are we doing unit tests in Go? Like to Jesus's question, actually, it's been a recent topic of conversation on some PRs. I've been asking people to create some unit tests, in part because it takes so long to manually test out the PR that they have and find that just it really doesn't work like it should. That anyway, we don't. This can serve as a spot to say we should have some unit tests. We should probably have some integration tests. Here we're using this, we're using that. Some Cypress there, some kind there, some what have you. This one is a bit higher level, and it might articulate things like our desire is to have an 80% coverage or something, or like, hey, if you're going to achieve the silver level in the CII, what is it, the core infrastructure initiative, if we achieve that next level, here's a percentage that they look for. If we and anyway, just like, hey, so for Go, it's expected that you're writing some tests, and for this, you're the whole like, and then there's potentially a separate sheet, a spreadsheet, maybe depends on how much time folks have and kind of how far along we get, that where we're articulating, where we're sort of highlighting that coverage. Or like if you think about making a release, like this upcoming release is pretty massive. A lot of any number of new architectural components, lots of new functionality. It's wonderful. How much confidence do we have that everything is working? It feels pretty good, but just the fact that I said it feels, we should stop the sentence there and say, wait a second, where's that report? And so,
right.
And so like in the fact that hey, there's an approach and strategy and sort of a general agreement that like, hey, we shouldn't be merging PRs that are failing checks occasionally, or I admit to being faulty on that, certainly in the past and even now, particularly if or really generally only if the failure, the check that has failed has nothing to do with the code that's in the PR, then it's like, well, it wouldn't matter anyway. That check was already failing or would be failing irrespective. And so it's like, okay. But yeah, if someone's submitting something that's causing a check to fail, that's a, anyway, that type of articulation in a document like this makes sense. In potentially a different sheet, what we would say is, hey, in terms of like, what's the release process? How do you make a release? Well, mechanically, you just go over to GitHub and you type in the tag that you're going to release and you click the button and like all this
Yeah.
workflow happens. But when do we know and sort of look, do we look at to CodeCov or do we look to Cypress or do we look to a spreadsheet to say, this feels pretty good. Like we did some significant diligence and we've been being kind of consistent with this diligence. Sometimes some of that. So there's testing. Yeah, sure. But when you look at a release and you say, hey, release manager, if someone's playing that role, green light, or are we comfortable or kind of not? Like, where's our comfort level? What's the risk? That release manager might not just point to the test, but they might also say, well, so we're looking good on the tests, but what we've got here is we've got 40 open issues, 30 of which are low priority, totally cool with or like that's just normal. We'll get to those, etc. But here's a blocker and here's another blocker, and so it's these two so and we don't necessarily have some of that defined and kind of written down and just take some simple GitHub issue labels to, and then when we say, well, what is a blocker? It's like, well, a blocker is when things just don't work. And it's like, well, maybe it's okay if that section of the code doesn't work because nobody uses it or whatever so yeah, those are all kind of things to go related and kind of going in there. So
Okay.
the document, sorry, the document of that, the title of that document could end up being either master test strategy and release governance or release process or release practices or something.
Yeah, sounds good. I will start working on that document, and we can review that in the next meeting.
Nice. Some of the, thank you for that, Rodolfo. Some of the rest of you might have bullet point, notes or thoughts or things to add in there. So, it's, open to folks.
With time, when we add tests to all the respective projects and everything, we can also set up a limit that every pull request has to cross so that we again strive for maintaining that code quality. So that is something that can be a part of this release. So like if every pull request has to get merged, it has to cross some minimum threshold value, like whatever we set with the consensus.
Yeah, so, sounds good. It's a good idea.
It's possible that there's possible that there are exceptions to the rule, or like, and some of that can be written down as well. It's like, hey, look, it's a very high priority, but technically not a blocker. Like, how do we, should we go ahead and just, vote on that? Is that sort of the thing, or is it, so there's a little bit of, the last word,
No, so like
governance, that's in there.
Yeah, so like, so what I suggest is that initially we should first strive to, let's say, let's say if we take 40% to be our ideal goal. So what we can do is, first we should start writing all the tests for the respective repositories, and let's say we achieve 40% of the tests according to the coverage reports. And from that point onwards, we know that code coverage has to increase with some particular delta with every pull request associated to it, and it should be greater than or equal to at least 40. There shouldn't be any code which at worst case reduces the test coverage, right? So it's got to be, there has to be some positive delta. It can be of whatever threshold we want, but it should be at least above 40, because that is that one level that we already have achieved before we set this condition.
Yeah, at least 40%, for example, right?
At least 40%.
Yeah, that is a good idea, because if we submit a pull request with new code and that decrease the percentage of the coverage, we should like add something about that code, right?
Yep. So I think that is one thing that, because now that we have coverage, so again, the entire goal of having code coverage and everything is just that we could improve the code quality more and more over and above with all the projects associated.
Yeah, thanks for proposing that, Shubham. I think it's good for implementing in the Meshery.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts or questions about a test strategy or CI test or CI process?
Yes, I want to know something like a path to follow in order to start being proficient, helping with this working group. Because, for example, me personally, I don't have experience creating continuous integration, so I don't know what is the first thing to learn, so I can help or I can start helping. Maybe I am seeing that you are adding uh, Node.js tests, so I can start writing Node.js tests, for example. But maybe the next step should be, I don't know, create an action or a GitHub action, something like that. So that is my
Right.
question. Mhm.
Yeah, great question. I think we can start doing JavaScript tests, as you mentioned. And one guide that we can follow is this article. Let me share that. So how to start working on tests or continuous integration. I have the link here in the code, but I think there is a blog with images about this content. But this is a good start to writing tests in Meshery. So here I explain how to write the first test, the first test, sorry, about the provider UI screen and how to run the test. That is the command that you just write, Jesus. So then I recommend to watch these videos in order to be familiar with Cypress and with tests. And then I think we can create a test with Cypress. So the first thing that I recommend you is to run this test in order to know how it works and how to write Cypress test.
Okay, thank you. So I can start with that.
Yeah, with that article and also with these videos. And I think with that you have a good start. If you have another question to how to implement a new test that is not implemented yet, you can reach out and we can work together.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to you, Jesus. Any other questions about CI test?
What's the current approach to build the stuff and push it on like Docker or any other distributions and downloads that we have? Like Either it has to be in a zip version or something like that. What's our current approach with it?
Approach with that, sorry.
To like build and so let's say if we hit up a version, let's say like we finally decide to release version 0.5. So what's the approach that we follow to you could say build out all the various builds to be downloaded and to be installed, or probably push up our own Docker image? What's the current process that we follow? Is the process even automated, or till date we do it like something in a, so is it like automated as of now?
Uh, uh, you are talking about the releases automation, right?
Yeah, yep. Release
Yeah,
automation.
yeah. That topic, I'm not too familiar, but I think Lee knows how the or what is the requirements to make a release.
Yeah, sure. Shubhank, we should begin to articulate those in the, well, so there's a build and release strategy document that defines a number of things. I mean, it'll interrelate probably heavily with the master test strategy.
Okay.
I call it we use the word master test strategy because in acknowledgement, we could use a different word other than master, it doesn't really matter, but it's the like an overarching, like we've got so many repos, we've got a lot of different languages, but a lot of the approach would be the same. Like if we were to say, hey, we really feel comfortable, like, you know, the general goal is to have 0 blockers and less than 5% or less than 10% high priority, known high priority issues with a certain test cover, like whatever the combination of like how we feel good about making release, that's probably going to apply to like most of the repos or most of the projects. And so that master test strategy would articulate those things, and we would, you know, as people contribute in different places, the same sort of policy, if you will, the same approach and process would apply. Shubhank, I missed the question. Was the question like, what's the mechanics of making the release?
Yeah, no, so it was more like whatever the guidelines that we have decided for, let's say, to have a release. So are the processes still something that is automated, or is it like we still follow something that there has to be some sort of manual checks and then probably we build up in a manual way?
It's a bit of both. So we created 2 release channels. To facilitate, one is the edge release channel to facilitate just like getting new functionality into everyone's hands quickly. So the edge release channel, a new edge release is made every single time that a PR is merged, so that people can get those artifacts in their hands. And if you're subscribed to that channel, you'll always be on what's latest in master branch.
What's the latest in the repository? Yeah.
Within a few minutes, within 10, 15 minutes of the PR being merged. We've got a new kitten that wants to scratch everything. Stable release channel is all automated, save for the manual decision to say, let's cut one. It's time to cut a release. Let's do it. Even the version, the number versioning, it's auto suggested that since we're following semantic release or semantic versioning, anyway, go read the build and release strategy doc. It'll tell you a lot of what I'm saying now. One thing that I do want to get to, if I can like, draw your attention this way, is Nighthawk, get Nighthawk, and the building of Nighthawk, which ain't no small thing. And for as much as I want to, and it's something we should give a lot of attention to. Get Nighthawk as a project will accomplish a few different things, but centric to some of the effort that goes into it is CI and the building of it. Here comes Adina. She's still on mute, but
yeah. So I promised yesterday to put more pressure on me, not too much. I started before the meeting. I'm way behind than I was before Christmas, but yeah. So now I have a laptop just for Nightwalk with 16 gigs with Ubuntu 18, and I can switch it to Windows. On the Mac, I'm not sure if I will be able to build it. I just pick up my Mac from the service and they didn't fix it, but it will probably start with the, so the display is not working. They didn't find. China is not delivering in these days. So
That's funny.
okay. A
Yeah.
part of this use is I understand I have to build it. And also we need to have a pipeline that is picking up Nighthawk and a pipeline that is actually doing the which I think you already did, the one with Get Nighthawk. That one with the
Yeah.
with the C++ extension written in Go, you already have a pipeline for that, right? Or not?
Well, yeah, not really. Yeah, with the for the Golang that's inside of that repository, and the repository that we're speaking of, everyone, is it's either it's in the layer, it's layer5io/Nighthawk Go, or it's Go Nighthawk. I forget which one. The reality is we will probably, if we haven't already, we will probably change that to be Get Nighthawk, like the repo name, probably Get Nighthawk. The Go that's in there is fairly small. I think there is workflow, I think, that builds that Go, which is the easy part. The hard part is that we'll need to go digest how it is that Envoy does its builds, so that then we can understand how Nighthawk does its builds, so that then we can say, good, we'll augment those Nighthawk builds with different target architecture, different target OSs, different target packages. So they're really, like, in terms of this us or that repo actually building Nighthawk, I could be mistaken, and there could be a workflow in there already.
Yes, they are building it when they build the Envoy.
Right. But and then from our,
I didn't got to that step yet.
Okay.
I'm still behind.
Cool.
If you want, Adina, I can like tag along and I mean, I could try to work around with this. I mean, this is something that I could even learn a few things out of it. So
Yes, of course.
something that I can help with the pipeline building.
Yep. Building or also how it is already built? Both of them.
Both of them.
Yeah. Yeah. So we will need to. I'm just talking by the memories because I didn't get where I was before. There was a Nightwalk version, and that one was built when the Envoy was built. And yeah, so what I would like to see is when the Envoy is getting built, where is what actually all the steps that are done, because I didn't saw them all. It is with Circle CI and something else, and also with Bazel.
Nice.
So, Lee, how would you recommend? Because
like
I think, how would you recommend me and Martinez to approach or to work together, or to start it or to continue?
Yeah, and there's
Because
a
both of us, we don't have too much advance on this.
right.
It's like don't have.
Yep. There's a okay. So if we run out of time, we'll continue this in the Slack. But there's a Google Doc for the Get Nighthawk project that's floating around Slack and project. I'm trying to find it. Yeah, here it is.
This one, right?
Yeah, there it is. Very good. And so, yeah, Shubham, jump in, and yeah, great time to jump in and help. There's so some initial steps are, the goals are to produce different distributions of Nighthawk. Nighthawk is written in C++. When Nighthawk is built, it's a separate project, but this one, Get Nighthawk, will really be the face of. There is no project site for that open source project. There is, we're doing just that. We're trying to help distribute it. Is one of the goals, and it's the first thing to start with. In part because Meshery itself uses Nighthawk, and it needs a better distribution than it has. We have a hard time getting it built and getting it inserted into Meshery. So in this doc that Rodolfo is sharing I think there's an area where we took some action items. Those right there are, oh, actually it's not that document. It's, I don't think it is. Maybe it's the same.
So it's like we need to like have it built in various operating systems and then try
Yeah.
to test it out.
Yeah.
Is it the required goal, right?
Yep. Yep. And so we'll use, GitHub Actions and workflow to be able to do that. So one of the things is just digesting how is Nighthawk being built today. And the part of the complexity is that Nighthawk is, as a project, is a sub project of Envoy. And as such, it also reuses Envoy's tool chain for its builds. So in essence, when you understand Nighthawk's build process and its tooling, you also will then understand Envoy's build process and tooling. And we don't necessarily have to improve on that or to significantly change that, or like we're not necessarily looking to influence and have them change it. Rather, we're trying to augment with, getting this into the hands of a bunch of other people to make it convenient to get at Nighthawk. And specifically for Meshery to get at Nighthawk as well. We're going to do a number of other things with Nighthawk, some data science things. So there's a couple of facets to this project, a couple of aspects to it. But the initial crux of it is like, churning out a bunch of builds. Or and even package things like, to the extent that an RPM made sense, or to the extent that, whatever that is.
Something that can be downloaded and fired up, something like that.
Yeah. Nice. And then, so just some initial task steps are like, hey, just some read the README for Nighthawk and how it's built. Read the README for how Envoy build is done. Start, the Nighthawk Go repo that we have here. Embarrass yourselves, with a bunch of workflows that don't work, and don't, just start trying to build the sucker. And the individual that is the core maintainer behind Nighthawk, his name's Otto, and he's in our Slack, Otto Vanderschaff. If you search for Otto, he'll be there. And the performance channel is kind of the one that, because Nighthawk is a performance characterizer, that's sort of the one that we're talking about Get Nighthawk, and create some issues on the repo if you like, and that way you can be clear about, like, in some respects, we should just create some issues. An issue that says, produce a Nighthawk build or distribution for compatible with CentOS. Produce a Nighthawk build compatible with, and we should first go look to Abhishek, the base image that we're using for Meshery. That's sort of the first goal, like, because we want to get consistent Nighthawk builds placed into the Meshery Docker image so that Meshery as an application can just reach over to Nighthawk as a binary sitting inside the same Meshery release, the same Meshery Docker file or container.
Okay. I'll first read about
Yeah,
the project.
that sounds good.
Look at that, Rodolfo. I used up all the rest of your time. I'm good at that.
Yeah, I think we ran out of time. So thanks for joining this session, and we will have another one in 2 weeks.
Nice. Thank you,
Great.
Rodolfo.
Thanks to have you all. See you there in Slack.
All right. Bye, guys.
Nice to
Bye.
see you again. Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone.
This
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.